In early 2020, a couple of months before the pandemic, I connected with an American podcaster who not only plays awesome electric guitar, but also has an extensive knowledge in music, specifically in the field of modern metal. I was fortunate to chat with this talented podcaster as a guest on his YouTube channel called Addidction. Addidction is a channel dedicated to artist interviews, album reviews, and live performances of various rock bands. So who's the man behind Addidction? He's none other than Brandon Zegarski. Brandon is originally from Seoul, Korea, but ended up living in New Jersey after being adopted into an American family. Brandon has an obvious passion for music, but also has an interest in other avenues, including video games, culinary arts, videography, and sometimes traveling. What do all these interests have in common anyways? Well, at least from my perspective, they may inspire us through creativity. In addition, these interests create connections with various people, regardless of their age, ethnicity, language, height, and so on. From my personal observation, Brandon has done an incredible job as an online broadcast personality, making connections with songwriters, fans, and other forms of entertainers, and we hope he continues to do so for years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, and people of every kind, please give a warm welcome to owner and CEO of Addidction, Brandon Zegarski. Brandon, how's it going, my man? Been a long minute.
It has been. I was trying to... well, first of all, I appreciate the introduction. As you know, I'm a man of introductions, so I have to give you respect for that.
Thank you so much.
Also, I hope these Bluetooth headphones don't cut out either.
Yeah, for sure, man.
But you couldn't have given me a better introduction, so I appreciate it.
No worries, man. And you know, that's the thing, because I was just trying to go back into our early conversations back in 2020 when we talked about each other's lives.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, hold on. I just want to summarize Brandon's bio a little bit. So I remember originally from Korea, adopted into an American family,
Yes.
and of course raised by a good diet of metal and music of every kind as well. But with you being such a sick musician at the same time, it's like not only like I always tell people, not only are you a great podcaster, but you're one of the sickest musicians I've ever seen who plays the guitar, shreds it like a beast.
Thank you so much.
No worries, man. You're welcome. So I just want to let people know how you and I connected. So of course, obviously, back in the day in early 2020, I saw you interview my homeboys from Chief State from Vancouver. That's my hometown, Vancouver, Canada. And
My guys, love them.
Oh, man, they're amazing. And of course, they got new music recently, so of course that everyone has to check out Chief State. Great guys from Vancouver, Canada. I've done shows with them many times too in the past, so they're no stranger to me when we shared a stage together, and I hope that'll happen again soon. So
Sure.
Fraser and Nick, if you guys are listening, you know what to do. You know who to come to if you need some other people to share a stage with you. But that was the thing that like when I first saw your interview with Chief State, I'm just like, heck, this guy's a really cool interviewer. And then when no worries, man, you're welcome. And then when we started talking to each other, when I became a guest on your show in January 2020. This was like just 2 months before the pandemic, and we didn't know what the world was going to be like. And of course, at that time, I think I didn't know what my TikTok was gonna become. I was just like, I have a TikTok channel. I don't know what's gonna happen with it, but we're going to do something with it somewhere along the way. And then who knew that became so handy for you and I in the pandemic after everything went down. But with you as a podcaster, like when you connect with other musicians from across the globe, does that, like, I know with the restrictions kind of easing up a little bit now, does that make you kind of want to travel to these places to see any artists of your choice?
Funnily enough, I think it was back in... I'm trying to date myself here. I think it was either 2016 or 2017. I went up to Toronto, Canada, and I saw the Northern and the Parallel, which are both great Canadian bands. Shouts to them.
Right on.
I went to go travel to see them, which was great.
Nice.
So I can only say that was I think that was the only time as of right now of where I've traveled like internationally to go see another band. But I want to do it more in the future now that, you know, things are obviously getting a lot better, which is awesome. Funnily enough, going to a show tonight as well. But it's crazy. I think it more so when I was starting out and doing the podcasting and doing all the YouTube stuff, which I mean obviously still am doing, but I never really put it into perspective that I was like, oh man, I'm interviewing like an Australian band or I'm interviewing a Japanese band or something like that. It just never really clicked until I had talked with like other people that I just know on a like daily basis, and they're like, "You talked to a band in like Japan?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it just felt normal to me." Um, so I think like just having the internet and being able to like kind of connect with people online always felt normal, and I never really put it into perspective until like again like we started interviewing and like other people I've had internationally on that I like would have never met if I didn't do this, you know?
Honestly, and this is the good thing I've enjoyed about you is that with you interviewing all these different heavy rock bands, it's like the good thing I always admire, and I always say this on your Facebook too, is that you've always helped even us unknown artists feel like stars. And that's what I loved about it, is because the world deserves to hear about Chief State. The world deserves to. I'm going to put myself aside here, okay? But the world deserves to hear about even all those other bands you interviewed, including, of course, Good Terms, which I believe, if I recall here, that was the longest interview video you've ever had on your channel on YouTube. If I'm correct,
it's up there. It's pretty close. I think I was thinking about it like a couple days ago, and I was like, man, I was trying to figure out which is the longest one. I think that one, and shout outs to my friend Nathan and Paul of Whale Bones, that one was like very close. They're like kind of neck and neck in terms of like length. Typically I like to do like longer interviews, but those are very long. So honestly, if people don't make it all the way to the end, I totally understand that, because I don't know who has 2.5 hours carved out to watch the entire thing. If you do, God bless your soul, because it was very hard for me to kind of, not to say that it wasn't hard to continue the conversation. It's just, when you're talking for 2.5, 3 hours, that's a long time.
Definitely. And people don't realize how public speaking is so different than playing music on stage for 2.5 hours. I mean, they're both equally, it can be exhausting. Of course, I always give props to, of course, to the guys, say, for example, Foo Fighters, our boy Dave Grohl, he is so energetic. Of course, rest in peace, Taylor Hawkins. But just seeing a band like that who would kill it on stage for 3+ hours, and I mean, you can imagine how exhausted they probably are. But of course, I mean, Dave Grohl, he must eat really healthy before he goes on stage. So, and this is the message I'm going to tell everyone. Please, take good care of yourself as performers.
Yeah.
You have to do that. And then same with being a broadcast personality like yourself. Like you. With you talking for 2.5 hours, like you've done such an incredible job, just putting yourself out there and making conversations with these artists. And I think what is great, just to see you talk for that long, it's like people have stories to tell, but not only that, it's that you have a special connection with these people, because you're savoring this day. Which I think is really amazing. So my next question for that is, where do you get that energy to be able to have this conversation? Is it coffee, energy drinks? What is it?
Oh man. Funnily enough, I had a cup of coffee today, and I probably will have like some sort of drink to keep me rocking later. But I don't know. I feel like, and it's gonna sound as cliche as ever, but honestly, like just finding new musicians to work with has always been something I've been passionate about. Like you said, from the people that have no one to the people that are like doing really great stuff. Like to me, that's what drives me, honestly.
Right.
And like, it sounds like a very cop-out answer, but honestly, like, I think about that I've been doing YouTube for 6 years, and I'm like, man, I wouldn't have had any of this or the love that I get online if I just didn't just start to do it. And so I've always been passionate about music. Music has always been a big part of my life and will obviously continue to be that.
Definitely.
But for me, it's like that's what drives me and what continues for me to like go like scour the internet for bands that I feel like, man, these guys are great. If only they had like people that gave like a crap about them or anything. And so that's really been my ideology with just doing the channel, has just been trying to find people that I know work their butts off all the time.
Of course.
And are just like killing it and people don't recognize them. So I'm hoping to, even if it's like a little bit of recognition, it's still recognition nonetheless. So, you know, I feel like that's kind of my driving energy pretty much.
Amen to that. It sounds like, in summary, your passion is your main fuel source when you're doing all these amazing things. So 6 years of
coffee helps though too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Coffee, of course. Yeah. But six years though. You got to think about that. So 6 years. That's more than half a decade of you being a broadcast personality here on the internet. So, did you see? Did you ever trace back yourself of how you presented yourself on YouTube, like back then versus how you are now? Like, did you see like any growth in terms of development of your skills?
Oh yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and watched my first interview that I ever did.
Nice.
Shout outs to Andy and Clarity. He's from Japan. Great story. I would highly recommend watching both of our interviews that we did. Great dude. Honestly, probably like the first person to it's the craziest story. So we met on Reddit. And it was literally just like me messaging this dude, and I like didn't know about him. This was when I like first started the channel and was like, oh, I want to start interviewing bands and stuff. And he was like super on board.
Nice.
And he's always been a big support. So I got to give a shout out to him. But yeah, I do go back and watch some of the interviews that I've done. Like if I get like something on Facebook of like, oh yeah, this is like this happened and stuff. And I'll like share it to like friends of mine that, you know, obviously I've done the interview with.
That's right.
And I think it puts it in perspective, like holy crap, like I can't believe this is like, you know, I can't believe I've been doing it for 6 years, and I'll probably continue to do it for I don't even know. I'm not even gonna date on how many more years I'm gonna do it for.
While we're old and gray, it's gonna happen still.
It will still happen.
Yeah, that's great. I think, and I think the same can be said for all those independent artists that you've interviewed for all these several years, where, you know, I'm sure, you know, they're just as passionate as you about music, and I'm sure they want to do this even if they're not playing at big stadiums. They probably still want to do this even when they're old and gray and you know, in a retirement home. You know, if they still rock it, hey, why not? If it's a quality show, that I'm gonna support that.
I do it.
And so.
I respect it.
Yeah, of course. Now, with you, of course, as a guitar player, so you've been on both ends, right? So you've seen entertainment as from a musician's perspective, but of course now you're on the other end as a journalist type personality as well. So when you do these interviews with all these different performers, do you always come in with that artist mindset? Is like, you know, like do you always feel like you can relate to what these artists are talking about when they answer your questions?
I don't feel like I can relate to it as much because my music has always been something like just I've done in my free time. It's not, I've never toured. I've never done any of that stuff relating to like being in a band, but I've grown up around like artists and stuff like that. So for me personally, it's just kind of being like the guy looking in from the outside and being like, oh, well, I play guitar, but I'm not in a band and I haven't really released anything. Not yet. I plan on releasing some music sometime. I'm hoping this year will be the year I'll actually release things,
I am looking forward to that. I am really looking forward to that.
Thank you. But in terms of like the interviewing process, it was more so just like going to shows. Like it was just cool seeing bands, and I just thought I never really saw people interview other bands like locally.
Yeah.
And you know, I would watch like or listen to a lot of Daniel Carter on BBC One. He's a fantastic broadcaster. If you have not checked him out, he does everything from like rock, pop, metal, all that sort of stuff, and he's great. So I've gotten a lot of inspiration from him
Right on.
as a broadcaster. But
Nice.
From the perspective of just being a YouTuber and like a personality kind of a thing, that I think more so just kind of evolved over time. It wasn't something that I like knew anything about. It was just me getting out of college and being like, I have my degree. What am I going to do with it? And I was just like, well, YouTube's fun. I really enjoy doing YouTube. I love talking. Like, I didn't really felt like I was very good at talking with people until like I talked about music, and then something just in my head just clicked.
Right.
And then I just started doing it just out of the blue. It was just like a random thought I had while I was in college, and I was just like, I should just do it. Why not?
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
And personally, just from my personal opinion, I always find that with you being such an amazing, well-spoken individual online, I could.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome, man. I could definitely see you going on TED Talks. You can talk about anything music related for about half hour, somewhere around that length.
Oh, longer. I could definitely go super long, and I probably shouldn't, but I'll do it.
I know, because I always feel like TED Talks has like a time limit, but if time was not an issue, if they could give you that platform to speak out in public about music related stuff, I think you can knock it out of the park. But if you were to go on TED Talk, what would be that one topic you could talk about just to start things off?
Oh man, you're really pressing me with a good question here, Ed. Trying to think, what would I talk about? I guess what I'm known for, which is just underground music. I feel like that would be just, if I had a topic to talk about, just it would be really cool to kind of get some inspiration from that, and just like, talk about bands that I'm really like passionate about, and like that I feel like will flourish, in the coming years.
That's right.
So I feel like that would be, if I had a TED topic to talk about, that was a mouthful, but I feel like that would be what I would go for.
Awesome. And of course, everybody would pay to see that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Anytime,
or if
man.
not,
Yeah.
I'll talk about it in my free time,
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yes. And the whole thing with you enjoying so many different artists from around the world. I mean, obviously, like, you have shared previously that with you traveling to Korea, getting in touch with your roots and everything, of course, your origins and all that. Now, has there been any artists within your home country that who have inspired you in the genre of metal? Like, has there been any Korean metal bands that you've come across? They're like, oh, man, these guys are sick. I want to see them live. I would pay to see them live for sure. or yeah. If money was not an issue, you could pay them personally to give you a private concert of anything. Yeah. Is there anyone that comes to mind? If not in Korea, is there anyone anywhere in Asia? Any metal bands out there who you want to see?
Well, I had the pleasure of seeing. I had the pleasure of actually interviewing this band early on in my YouTube and like music career. And I always loved them, and I still love them, and I'm hoping that they'll be releasing new music soon. But there's this band out of Japan called Crystal Lake, and they I would love to see them in their home country, Japan, because compared to the US, like, they're relatively unknown in terms of popularity. Yeah. But in Japan, I've seen some of their live shows, and I'm like, oh my God, it would be just such a cool thing to see them just go hard in Japan with their Japanese audience. So that would probably be one band. In terms of Korean bands, I don't really have one off the top of my head that I know of. Like, I'm getting into K-pop and trying to find different bands that meld that sort of genre into metal and stuff.
Besides BTS and Blackpink, obviously,
I would say there's this Japanese. They're kind of. I'm trying to explain it. They're kind of like J-pop and a metalcore. They're kind of in the same lane as a baby metal.
Okay. Yes.
But
yes.
But they're cream of the crop, I'd say. But there's this band called Passcode and they're awesome. Like,
Yeah.
Sincerely, like, if they ever messaged me to do something, I would drop everything in my life to just interview them, because they have this, like, it's weird. They have this, like, Japanese idol kind of, like, look.
Yeah.
Like, if you saw them, you'd be like, oh, okay, they're like this J-pop band. They're really cool.
Yeah.
And then, like, the instrumentals would come in and they're screaming.
Right.
And there's obviously just, like, really catchy, like, bubbly pop stuff going on. They are probably by far one of the wildest bands I had stumbled upon and fell in love with. So I would say either Crystal Lake, to finalize the answers, it would be either Crystal Lake or Passcode. Yeah. Those are two bands that, if I went to Japan, would love to see.
Awesome. And, you know, if they ever do come to Vancouver, I will let you know. And I'll be like, hey,
I will fly out. I will fly out to Vancouver for those. They would never. They could be on the same bill potentially. So
it could happen. Yeah.
I'm just putting it out there. If that happened, I think I would have to not go to any other show in my entire life, because I would know that I'm good.
Of course. And we gotta combine these two other interests of yours into the same box here. Okay, so of course, you know, besides your love for traveling, obviously you enjoy cuisine. You appreciate culinary arts of every kind. With you having those kind of skill set. Now, when you did travel to your home country, how did you find the cuisine in Korea different than how it is in the States?
I've had Korean food before, like. Shout outs to my parents. They really did try to, like, immerse me in Korean culture growing up.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was just a stupid teenager that didn't really, like, understand the importance of that until like now I'm in my late 20s, you know, not to age myself, but but I feel like now and going through college and stuff, and like I feel like I really grasped, like, the understanding of being, like, a Korean American and stuff. And so they really tried to instill that with me early on, and we tried to go to Korean restaurants and stuff like that. And so, I've always had that knowledge of it, but I didn't, like I said, when I went to Korea in the, early to 2010s, something like that.
Yeah.
That's when I really was like, man, Korean food's delicious. And if I could eat it every day, I would.
Yeah.
So I feel like my goal is to try to, like, incorporate some more, like, Korean dishes. I really enjoy, this is going to sound basic, but I really enjoy bulgogi, which is, like, a Korean beef dish.
Yeah, of course. Yes. I've had it before. Yes. It's
guys
amazing.
If you guys haven't had it, oh, you got to try it. That's a delicacy.
Yes. I like mine with a little extra spice in it, just so you know.
I feel that. Eddie.
Right on. Now, is there any other places in Asia that you would want to travel to, or just anywhere in general around the world? Like, you know, would it be like maybe say Vietnam, Hong Kong, Ireland, Germany? Where would be like let's say like your top 3 places you want to go to outside North America?
Definitely Japan. I feel like that is clearly evident by I have a bunch of like Nintendo
of course, yes,
and things of that nature. My love of video games knows no bounds, so I would probably say I would have to go to Japan, number one.
Most definitely.
Japanese culture. I would pick up my phone and show you around if I didn't have it all propped up, but I have like a ton. I literally have like a Dragonite figure here, you know.
Of course.
I'll show you on top of my PC. I got my, you know, Godzilla.
Oh, nice.
Funko Pop figure. So I feel like Japanese culture has always been a part of my life that I've really loved and appreciated. So I'd probably say Japan, number one. Oh man, that's really tough. Vietnam would be really cool. I feel like they're just a really like bustling, just beautiful city that I'd like to go to. And shout outs to Windrunner. They're another great Asian band that if you haven't checked out, they're on Famined Records. Lovely people. And I'd love to actually see them play. So that's another band from Asia. Yeah, that I would love to add to my list.
Right on.
And then lastly, I'd probably say Australia. I have not been to Australia. but I know that is a beautiful country, and that would also be one on my list that I feel like I would just enjoy so much that I would not want to come back to the States.
So, and imagine when you go to a different country, any foreign country of those choices. I mean, to elevate your experience, imagine if you go to those places and you go to one of the sickest music festivals out there.
Oh, 100%.
And that could be an opportunity for you to interview people as well.
Oh, if that is the dream. I feel like Australia has a couple different festivals that I would really love to go to. I think Full Tilt happens. I want to say, I don't know if it's their summer or their winter. I can't remember. I think it's their summer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
That is a fantastic. They always have a stacked lineup, so I got to do that. Or like Unify Gathering, also in Australia, is really great.
Yes.
But I mean, they got some. I mean, Europe's got some fantastic like festivals, like Reading and Leeds Festival or Slam Dunk. I know if you're into like progressive music, they have the Arc Tangent is great.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If I could travel and go to these festivals, that would be the dream for sure.
And if you were sponsored,
if I was, listen, I would quit my day job and I would just do that full time, 100%. It would be wonderful. If that can happen, what I would do.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And of course, speaking of international talk here, we see from your post that obviously, of course, besides you interviewing Chief State from Vancouver, Canada, your love for big Canadian metal music obviously is Alexis on Fire. Dallas Green being the genius that he is, you enjoy City and Color so much, and of course, you must have been so surprised when you noticed that Color was spelled differently in Canada.
I did not. I've been a big. Actually, I'm gonna probably get so much hate for this, but I've been more of a fan of City and Color stuff than I was of Alexis on Fire. I don't blame you for Alexis on Fire, but I had found out about his music through City and Color, and then I was like, wait, he's in a post-hardcore band. That's no right. Way. I went to go check it out afterwards. Yeah. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. So I feel like for me, City and Color is always going to have that big sore spot in my heart. So of course, I would love to see him again.
Oh, definitely.
100%.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, of course, City and Colors hit songs that we all know, like "Save Your Scissors," and of course the one track he did with the late great Gordon Downey.
Yes.
And of course, like for those who are listening in America and other outside Canada, basically, Gordon Downey used to be in this really amazing Canada-wide famous classic rock band called Tragically Hip. They were in the Hall of Fame. They had all these big hits, but they only stayed in Canada. That was the crazy thing. And
wow.
Yeah, and we've unfortunately lost him through because of cancer back just some years ago. I think about 2018. I think we lost him, and then they did a really beautiful tribute to him. At the we have a Grammy type award called the Juno Awards, and so they did this nice, wonderful tribute to him.
That's awesome.
But Gord Downey and the Tragically Hip, for those who don't know, Tragically Hip is almost kind of like a cool like a working man's classic rock band, basically, right? And it's something that people can really, really enjoy. But then when you see someone like Dallas Green, who was able to go out there and collaborate with all these different legends from different eras, different icons. I mean, obviously, you must have heard about Dallas Green's collaboration he did with Pink.
Yes, yeah, that's great, fantastic work. I thought that was, I was funnily, I think I was listening to that. I went to go visit my parents. And I told them, I was like, oh yeah, he did a collaboration with Pink, and we started listening to some of the stuff, and I had already listened to it, so I already knew how great it was, but just to hear them two together, it was great. So that I feel like that I feel like I have to complete my City and Color vinyl collection So I still have a few more, and that one is one of those ones that I still need to get.
Oh, definitely, yes. And here's the thing I always find that's so interesting is that when it comes to physical media, I mean, obviously, people are saying that CDs are not as popular as they used to be. Although there's still that small percentage of people who still collect CDs, right?
Sure.
But there are people who do say that when it comes to physical media, vinyl has been king for the last 10 plus years now. So
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so do you find the difference in quality of vinyls compared to, say, CDs and the MP3s?
I think for me, like I see both sides of the fence. Like I love the convenience of just being able to stream an album, like with Spotify or like Apple Music or whatever you use, Tidal, stuff like that. I do see the convenience factor of that. But growing up and listening to music for as long as I've been listening to music, physical mediums like a CD or something along that line, and I had been collecting vinyl. Man, I don't even know how long it's been. A very long time since I've been collecting vinyl. That has always been something for me. Like I love the physical attribution of just having a CD or having a vinyl, and as much as they take up a lot of space, it's always something that's been important for me to have, like in my collection or whatever, And I think it's just like you get to appreciate the music a little bit more because I feel like the artists, take more time to put into like their music, like whether it be like the packaging of it or like the actual vinyl record itself. I just feel like there's a lot more heart in it than just like, okay, well, you can stream our album. Yeah, like that definitely helps the band. You should definitely still do that if that's your thing. But for me personally, it's always been about like buying some sort of physical medium, as much as it's like my car doesn't have a CD player in it, so it doesn't really benefit me to have a CD. But if I can buy a vinyl, I'm gonna buy it.
Definitely. I mean, you gotta think about it from that perspective too. It's like any physical media like vinyl or CDs in this case too. It's something that's going to come in very handy in case if you're, and this will happen because this has happened to a lot of us. You may come across a scenario where the internet's down. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like 100%. People you may experience either bad internet connection or your internet company is down right now. They're experiencing a lot of problems because of a storm, whatever it may be. So how do you entertain yourself for the next little while to kill some time? Well, time to bring out the physical vinyl, time to bring out the CD, whatever it is that you got, or even dare I say it, the downloaded MP3 that you bought from Apple Music, right? It's like it's almost like it's like it's good to have the internet, but I feel it's almost like you can't rely on the internet 100% because everything will every avenue will have its flaw somewhere along the way. So it's like Spotify is fine and dandy for the convenience, but I feel like like for you that you can just bust out your vinyl, your City Color vinyl, for example, put it on the record player, and boom, good to go. But that quality through those if you have a good pair of speakers, obviously you'll experience. I think you're gonna have that full on experience in terms of quality.
Yeah, I also think for me too, like, I don't even really put it into perspective, like, we talk about musical taste, right? Like,
yeah, that's right.
You don't really realize it until the records that you buy. Like, you're like, oh, I listen to this. Like, because we could talk all day about, like, oh, I listen to, I listen to everything. And then people will be like, oh, well, I don't really like this genre, actually. And then, like, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like a vinyl collection, like, if people who really collect vinyl, like, you get to see all of the facets of what they listen to, whether it be just like, again, if they listen to primarily rock music or they listen to primarily this music, like it shows in the type of music that they collect. You could have anything from like old stuff that your parents listened to, like classic rock music. Like my dad gave me the Boston self-titled record when I saw him last.
Oh, wow.
Like,
wow,
which is great. It's like, that's some like classic stuff. So I mean, I really appreciate it because that was an album I listened to growing up, and it's always been something that I've always loved. So I think for me, too, it just shows the variety of what I listen to. Like,
of course,
one day I could be like, oh, well, I want to listen to a classic rock record, or one day I want to listen to like video game music, or one day I want to listen to, like a really stupid heavy band. Like, it doesn't matter. There's just like, I just have a large variety of it, and
Of course.
I just appreciate the growth that I have within the collection, you know?
Definitely. And while we're talking about video game music, I mean, you got to talk about gaming soundtracks. I mean, of course, you know, when you talk about revolutionary, you know, the first thing, of course, that comes to your mind is probably like Final Fantasy and anything you know, anything within that realm. Now, is there any kind of soundtrack? If say there was say your local orchestra in your hometown wanted to cover a video game soundtrack, which one do you think they should cover that makes you want to go see them live?
Oh man. Well, funnily enough, I love, as most people know on the internet, I am a big Pokemon fan. So
Yes.
I would say I know that they have made those. But honestly, not to make a cop out answer, but anything Nintendo, I feel like is really my
Of course.
jam. The only other one that I can think of off the top of my head that would be really interesting would be like Sonic. I know Sonic's been seeing a renaissance as recently in terms of like movies, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like anything like Nintendo, Sega related has always been nostalgic for me. So I feel like those two would be. But if I had to specifically pick one, definitely Pokemon. I feel like that one's
Very good answer.
You know,
good choice.
Thank you.
And you were mentioning Sonic the Hedgehog, obviously. I mean, of course, you know, you and I, we played. Well, at least for me, I played on Genesis. But
yeah,
with your experience as a Sonic fan as well, I mean, like, which one do you think had the more superior soundtrack? Do you think Part 1, Part 2, or Part 3?
Oh, man, that is tough. I feel like one is just has all the classics on it, the ones that you know and love. Like, when you think of Sonic, you're like, yeah, this is it. This is the one.
Yeah.
But I have to probably go in terms of Sonic, like in terms of Sonic soundtracks that just remind me of like when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say actually none of the classic ones. I'd probably say either Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2. Those
right on.
Those are to me timeless records. I know Crush 40 gets a bunch of crap for, you know, always doing Sonic records, but
Of course, yeah.
you can't knock them. They are a classic band that when you think about Sonic, you think about Crush 40. So I got to give them the love that they deserve, because they always create, like, to me, the most memorable Sonic tracks. And so if those are records that I've been tracking down. I missed out on an opportunity very recently to get them, so I'm hoping that I will get them on vinyl.
Yes,
That's my goal.
Of course, yes. Yeah, and blast it through the big speakers.
Woo, got to. That's the best.
That's the nice goal for you. And yeah, I mean, you gotta think about this whole thing with Sonic was that nobody saw it coming a long time ago when Sonic has joined the Nintendo universe. And because we all knew that these were competitors at first, right? It's like if you know, it's like if Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse were going head to head, basically, right? It's exactly that same avenue.
Much,
but when that happened, when you finally saw Mario and Sonic literally riding together side by side, what was your initial reaction when you got that news?
Oh man, I feel like I think it was a long time coming. Like, no offense to the Sonic fandom, because they're great, but I feel like Sonic was kind of like doing like a downhill slide here, and Mario was kind of like, you know, they've always kind of been on and up a little bit, but I feel like it was I feel like that was going to happen eventually, whether or not it happened in that game or if it happened later down the line.
Yeah.
They've always been tough competitors of each other. I would kind of throw in the ring too, like Crash Bandicoot was also in that like triangle of like, you know, video game like personnel that were just going after each other all the time. So I feel like for me, it wasn't as big of a surprise that I feel like most people that don't know anything about video games would be surprised with, but I kind of foresaw that. I feel like that was something that was either inevitably going to happen, or they were just going to be like two super strong rivals that always just like paralleled each other. It didn't really phase me as much as I feel like it may have phased other people.
That's right. Yes. So, and of course, this leads to my next question in terms of video games. So, if you were to have a dream team for Smash Brothers, let's put three. Let's do like a 3-on-3 match here. Okay. So,
Ooh,
who would you draft in your trio?
In my trio? Oof, that's tough. Oh man. Wow. All right. I'm probably gonna have to go with some Pokemon character because that's just my thing. So it would probably be. I'd probably be Pikachu
Nice.
or some sort of some sort of character. I'm trying to think what else what it could be. Like characters that aren't in the game.
Yeah. It's just anybody you want.
Oh man. All right. Well, then I'll retract Pikachu because I know he's already in the game. So I would probably
Nice.
pick my favorite Johto starter, Typhlosion. That's number one.
Yeah.
Non-characters that aren't in the game that I think I would like to have. That's tough. Let me think. I really have to think about this one now. I think you're asking this question because I know I asked it to you in the interview we did. So now
That's
I
right.
really gotta
Yes.
push
Yes.
my
Two,
brain.
two, 2 years later, man.
Oh man, it's coming back to me. So I'd have to pick, another fun character that I've been really enjoying playing as. There's this game on the Switch which I would highly recommend if you're a Ninja Gaiden fan.
Yes.
There's this game called The Messenger on Switch, and it is awesome. So I would say the Messenger would be really cool to have in Smash. And to round it out, oof, that's tough. Who would I pick? Man, I want to pick another Pokemon character, but I feel like that's really
Make him.
stretching
Yeah,
it.
if you want to, go for it.
I feel like Infernape would be another good one. He's already a fighting type, I feel like that's the one to be. So that
Nice.
would be it.
That would be a nice team for you on Smash Brothers. Because I'm thinking like if I was to give you your opponents, I'm gonna give you my opponents here. So my opponents will be Bowser teaming up with Donkey Kong.
Ooh. Okay.
And just a little twist too. I'm going to also throw in Star Fox.
Ooh, okay. I like it. I'm down with
Those
that.
are your opponents. So yeah, but I mean, with you being a fan playing Nintendo Switch, how do you think that stands? Like, how is your experience of it compared to say Wii U? Like how do you find it different? How do you find it so different?
I think it's one of the best modern Nintendo consoles. I know I'm gonna get so much hate for that because I know how much the Nintendo fandom is, but to just have I grew up playing the portables. Game Boy Color was the first console, first gaming console I got beyond the 64. And it was so cool to just bring my Game Boy Color on the road, and just play it wherever I wanted it to. So to be someone in their late 20s that can play the Switch wherever, I'm trying to think of the last place that I brought it that was fun. So I went on vacation recently to go visit my parents, and on the plane I was just playing the Switch, which as an adult, that's wild, So I feel like for me, that has been the quintessential video game console for me. But I don't want to disrespect any of the previous consoles that I have. I have a bunch of consoles, so I gotta give love to the GameCube. That's my ride or die. I'm always gonna love it. But I think in terms of modern Nintendo, what they're doing, the Switch is just next level to me, honestly. They just did something different that I feel like everyone can enjoy, whether you're like my age or older, or a kid. Like, who doesn't love bringing a video game console on the go? So I feel like it is the quintessential like console right now. I as much as I think the PS5 and like the Xbox X, like, they're great graphics wise, but I always get in this debate with some of my friends. They're into video games heavily. I'm gonna love this. I love Nintendo. I'm a Nintendo fanboy. They're my ride or die. I'm gonna love them no matter what they do. So you can hate on me all you want, but I'm gonna love it till the end.
Yes. I totally get it. I mean, for myself, being an elder millennial, I grew up playing the original NES when it first came out, right?
Whew.
And so with that being the revolutionary console, there's no doubt that the whole thing with with Mario being the legendary icon that everyone has now grown up loving for the last 40 years now, is insane, because it's just so different. But I think what it is that creates that loyalty, including with fans like yourself, is the consistency of how fun Nintendo is, especially for kids and adults, right? Because I find, like, with what you're saying is that, you can love the PlayStation all you want, right? Graphics are amazing, all that, and I'm a PlayStation fan of, myself. I think I converted to PlayStation-ism, if that makes sense. But it's just that. But the one thing I can always look back on when I play even my old Wii games and SNES as well is the consistency of how this caters to all demographics, and it can be fun for everyone. Because I find out with PlayStation, it is almost catered towards mainly adults, 19 plus, right? But with but I think, like, with Nintendo, it's always going to be a fun one, and of course, like Mario Party brings people together, and of course, actually, looking back at the comment section, Nikki, one of my followers, she says that that Mario Party is a great one on N64, and I think that's the one that gets people talking, right? And gets people together, especially if you do have friends coming over to your house just for the fun of it. And I think that's the one thing that you can blast out is any Mario Party game is going to bring people together. It's not, and I would say it's the least offensive game that you can think of too, right? Because if you're going to tell people to start playing Call of Duty or any other adult games out there, it's not everyone's going to be into it, but Mario seems to circle everyone back together somehow, and I think the consistent fun is what it is. But I think you hit the nail on the head. Is that the whole thing with Switch is that they took it up to a different level, and it's a brand new experience basically that stands out a lot more.
Yeah, I think the fact that it is very close to being one of the best Nintendo consoles to sell of all time, I feel like that speaks volumes for like that. And I think, to me, like, the Switch is something that I think is very transcendent. Like you said, young people can play it, kids can play it, all the way up to adults. So I think that, to me, has always had that staying power. I've always enjoyed these characters. I will always continue to enjoy these characters as long as I can, and hopefully my kids will enjoy them, So I think for me personally, it's always been something that I've enjoyed across the board, and I'll probably still wind up buying Nintendo products until I'm like, of old age.
Yeah, of course. I feel like what we should do, if you ever come to Vancouver, hang out with me and the guys from Chief State, we should just do a straight up Nintendo Switch or any console and just battle each other out.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, we always seem to circle back to our homeboys from Chief State. Obviously, I know you support them all the way. They're great guys and everything.
Love them.
If you could put together a fun show where you have let's say we have our homeboys from Chief State opening for a big name band, who would you set them up with on that big stage?
That's tough. Oh man, because they got this great pop punk energy. I saw them I saw them a couple years ago. They played in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Shouts to them because I feel like as a Canadian band, it is very difficult to tour it in the States. So kudos to them.
Yeah.
If I had to put them up with a big pop punk band name right now, oof, that's tough. That is very difficult. Let me really think about that. Whew. My God. I probably, because they're doing this right now in the States, they're doing this big tour for Newfound Glory's doing their like 20th or something for Sticks and Stones, which as a band, congratulations, because that is to have that type of milestone and still be a band and celebrating that record. Like, I'm not the biggest Newfound Glory fan, but as a person that has been in the scene for a very long time, that is a big milestone. So congrats to you. So I would probably say they're currently touring with Newfound Glory and 4 Years Strong. So I feel like that if they were opening for them, 1,000,000%, 100% be on board. That'd be so cool.
Good choice. Great choice, actually, if you were to put them in that avenue. Newfound Glory. Now, that's the thing, because, again, this is going to date me, too, because I listened to them 20 years ago.
Same.
20 years ago, all right? Like, this shows you I'm actually, legit an old guy here. But,
Same.
But the thing I found so amazing with Newfound Glory is obviously the lead singer's vocal range here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, our homeboy Kellen Quinn from Sleeping with Sirens has a high range as well for a male, but when it comes to Newfound Glory, I mean, you think about songs like My Friends. I try to sing My Friends Over You in its original key, right? And of course, that's like, that's like a lot of breath. I can't even reach those high notes, but like you gotta give them props to, like, they've been doing this for such a long time, right? And of course, like their cover of the Neverending Story, that was the one that got my attention, actually, when I discovered Newfound Glory, of course. I mean, if you if you were to go see these guys live and you get a chance to interview them backstage, what do you think you would ask them first thing when you approached them?
I think I would ask them, just because they're in that category of bands that, like, or just to me have that sort of like legendary status within the scene. I think I would just ask them I would ask them like how they continue to grow as a band, because I feel like after a certain point, like, I don't want to say bands drop off, but like it's tough to grow beyond what you know already. Like, you've gone through 20 years plus of being a band. Like, that is a very long time, and like having stuff that you released back 20 years ago to stuff that you've released maybe within a couple years, like, that is an insane amount of growth within an artist, And so I guess my question to them, if I was to ever interview them, would be like, how do you continue to respect and show love to the fans that have been around for over 20 years, to the fans that you may have just gotten like last week, So I think that would be kind of my question to ask them, because as someone who has interviewed a lot of artists, like, that is crazy to me, being a band for that long, growing that much within that period of time. Like, that would be my quintessential question to ask them, would just be, how did you grow so much, and how do you continue to show respect to the old fans, but also show love to like a lot of the new fans that find out. It could even be the kids of the people that listened to that album 20 years ago, Like, it's just kind of like a circle of life kind of thing, where I think that would be very interesting to ask them.
Oh, yeah. Good answer. Yeah. I mean, of course, yeah. Good question to ask them in this case. Now, of course, when we just going through your archives of other artists that you've interviewed, I mean, I think one of the ones that I was so impressed with was Maggie Schneider from Glimmers. who is doing really well so
Shouts to
far.
them.
She and the whole band have been really successful. I've had a chance to connect with those folks, and of course, they've been playing all these amazing shows, had a mini
Yeah.
tour and everything. And the one thing I was just so impressed with is how much Maggie could do. With her being a music teacher,
Yeah.
but with her having a band at the same time, juggling all that stuff. How was that experience? Just connecting with Maggie all together, because like she's so unique in her own little way.
Yeah.
As an artist, like what's the first thing that came to mind when you got a chance to connect with her?
Well, I want to give a shout out to them because they've been absolutely killing it. Maggie, if you happen to watch this, feel free to come back on because I would love to have the band Glimmers, because at the time, I think she was just doing like it was just her, but then they were talking about going through the process of changing over to Glimmers, which obviously happened obviously can't talk about that now because it happened in the past, but um it was a really awesome experience. I think we had met through a mutual friend, much like kind of any other interview experience that I've had. But she has such a great voice. And I think for me personally, it was just really cool to just speak with her about like her love of music. And you could tell she loves music. Her TikTok game has been off the charts right now, too, as well. So I feel like she's just getting what she deserves, like as a band. Like collectively, they're a great band. Their last EP was phenomenal. Listen to that. And just to see the growth, I think for me as like somebody who interviews a lot of artists, sometimes even multiple times, I think it's cool to see the growth. And big shout outs to my homie CJ. I just had him on recently. We went to a music conference last weekend. And so we were talking about this, like where, I've been in people's lives for like a long period of time, and it's cool to see the growth in that aspect as being like, but kind of behind the curtain, you know what I mean? It's cool to just kind of not only experience it from like an interviewer's perspective, but also as like a fan of the band, just generally, it's cool to see their growth. And I think that's kind of like the thing that just always inspires me to kind of push myself as an interviewer, is just to know like,
Yeah.
wow, these guys were really doing it. I got to up my game and I got to do better. So I feel like that's kind of the mentality that I see within artists, is just like, just keep pushing it, keep going and keep doing your thing. Cause eventually it's going to pay dividends. So that's kind of my thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing you have to really admire too. I mean, of course, yeah, like you said, besides Maggie's unique voice when she sings, this is a band that has powered through even during the pandemic, the beginning of it. And and we all know 2020 was not the best year for everyone because
Yeah.
things were shut down, people were getting sick. But to see a band like that who persevered so much regardless of what was going on around the world. I mean, even you yourself, you still got the channel going during the pandemic as well. And so what helped you get through that? Like, because you still posted content, and so of course, no excuse on your end.
Yeah.
You're still giving her. So did you have like any kind of strategy, or was there any kind of like just determination that helped you get through all this?
I didn't really have any strategy. I was a little bit concerned on what was going to happen, the future of the channel. Like, I imagine most bands, anybody within the music scene generally, I feel like that's just a common thing to feel. I think the biggest takeaway that I had about the pandemic and like making content within the pandemic is to know your limits. Like I took time off from doing the channel for a bit, and I kind of took time off within 2021 too as well. I had been going nonstop for probably 4 or 5 years doing the channel, just not taking any breaks, just going like I had content on content on content. And so I think at a point I just realized that like mentally I couldn't keep going. Like as much as I wanted to keep going, like I knew it was not in my best interest to keep going. And I had a personal experience where I knew it was time for me to take a break. Like it was very bad. And I think that as as a content creator, you feel the need to constantly, and probably even musicians too, you feel this constant need or constant pressure to continue to do stuff. Like, especially during the pandemic, people were at home, they didn't have anything to do. So, they would just ask bands to keep releasing stuff. And, that just isn't a healthy way or mentality to be in. So I feel for me personally, that was like something that I knew existed, but was too stupid to realize it. And I think that the pandemic finally said, like, hey, listen, like, this is your time to take a break. You should do it not only for you, but also for just your health in general. And so I did take quite a bit of time off. And I think it allowed me to kind of like internalize that thought process of like, okay, you can work hard, you can do your shit, but like at the same point, like, don't go nuts. Like, there's a level where things kind of cap off.
That's right.
And you gotta kind of like, you kind of be a little bit below where you want to be at. And that was the most important lesson for me personally, was just to know that there is a limit.
Mm-hmm.
You should respect that limit, and to know that you're doing your best you can, as an artist, a creator, whatever. Like, you are doing the best you can, and don't go beyond that point, because it's not a good thing.
Yes, of course, yeah, and of course that was the whole thing that I guess that reminds all of us is to take good care of ourselves, especially whenever people feel that burnout. Like I feel like that's one of the things, like, because all the things that you do that you always enjoy doing, it starts to become a chore. And from what you were just saying just now, I mean, that's a great demonstration of you need that time off to re-energize, take good care of yourself, and then once you come back with full vengeance, man.
It doesn't mean you love it any less, and I think that was like the biggest takeaway, is that it doesn't mean that if you take a break that you don't love it or that you don't care about what's going on with it. It just means that you have a healthy respect of what's going on.
That's right.
And I think that's what I didn't fully put together up until this point, was that you have to have a healthy respect. Like, the channel, YouTube, that's always going to be a thing. People are always going to love what you do or hate what you do, whatever it is. It's just you having that mental fortitude of being like, okay, it doesn't matter if people love it. It doesn't matter if people hate it. Like, you need to know that this is important for you personally. You're in the driver's seat. You can control what you want to do, and I think that's the thing, like, I think that's the biggest takeaway, is just like knowing that pushing yourself to an extreme is never good. And I think people respect that. I think more so than any other period of time. Like, I'm sure if you took a break, people would be like, oh, I hope you're doing well, Eddie. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's I think that's my thing. That's what I've been taking away from that.
Yeah. Indeed, and I remember that fun thing that happened on Instagram Live during that beginning stage of the I think it was actually no, this happened during like just at the starting stage of the pandemic. I think like in late spring, early summer. Mm-hmm. There was that you and I, we were speaking during that virtual concert that happened on Instagram, which I was so proud to tune in, and I had so much fun. I gotta tell you, man, that was so much fun. It's like, I think it's just the fact that, like, I'm seeing all these different artists streaming, but it still had that nice intimate vibe to it. At the same time, it's like it still felt like I've traveled to a venue and watched a gig happen, but it's still within the comfort of our own living rooms.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool feeling. I don't know what it was, but it's just that really cool feeling that it had. It's like we are there together, even though not in person, but we still feel that cool sense of community where everyone is together and enjoying the live music. So, I mean, what were your thoughts when you were a part of that virtual show experience?
It was good. I think, funnily enough, I was talking to my friend Justin over the weekend at Launch Conference. I just met him. So shout outs to his band Merci. Go check them out if you're into like pop, like dark pop music. But we were talking about like bands doing the whole like live thing, like playing shows live, like within the comforts of like a venue or something like that during the, obviously the pandemic being a little bit more serious at that time. I personally am not a fan of it. It's not because I don't love the music. It's not because I don't like it. It just feels like, for me personally, as someone who has gone to shows dating back to 2011, there's a different energy being in a venue with a bunch of other people that love the same music that you love. So I feel like in that aspect, like, you'll never be able to replicate that in a video, like live performance. But in the same aspect, I think if you love a band and you're supporting a band, if you love that band, you should be supporting what they do live. Like, that's awesome. Good for them. Like, they're still making music. They're still doing their content. Like, they're still being artists at the end of the day. And I think that that's great. But it's just being an old head. Like, I feel like that there's a disconnect. And there's been a few bands that I saw during the pandemic that I was like, okay, they're really doing something different. Like, shout outs to Bill Murray. He was doing some really great live stuff, which you can still go check out. I'm pretty sure it's up on his store. He was doing great. Under Oath did a really good one. The only other one I can think of that off the top of my head that I really enjoyed was Tesseract. They did a fantastic like live to video format. Like, they literally sounded like I would see them at a show. And so I feel like for me personally, that I think that those three really felt the most immersive to me, where I was like, oh shit, I'm at a concert. This is awesome. Like, I really enjoyed it. So I feel like those three, if I had to kind of put it in a tier list, those would be the three that I was really like, okay, this is great. Like, this is awesome. But shout outs to anybody who made content during that time, because it was difficult, very, very difficult. So kudos to you guys.
But now with, of course, as we mentioned earlier in this conversation today, live music has started coming back again. Of course, I'm sure in your town there's probably so many shows that you are looking forward to. So this is going to, unfortunately, is the last final question of the night, or of the day rather. Sorry. But I just wanted to ask you, what is that one concert you are looking forward to in your hometown this year?
All right. Well, funnily enough, I'm seeing a show tonight. It was one on my list at the time, but then there was another show that happened that is coming up that I'm way more stoked on. No offense to the bands I'm seeing tonight, but I'll give it an honorable mention. Dayseeker is doing a headliner for their album Sleep Talk, which if you haven't checked out, you need to do so. It's fantastic. But they're with three international bands that I'm really stoked to see tonight, which is Thornhill, Holding Absence, and Caskets. They're all the Holding Absence and Caskets are both from the UK. They're awesome. Go check them out. And Thornhill's from Australia, which is insane. So if you got a chance to go see them, go see this tour. It's awesome. But they're my honorable mention because I feel like I have to talk about this album. I've been talking about it on my social media for like a hot second, but Greyhaven is doing a tour with the lovely homies in Limbs. They are putting out a new EP, which I'm really stoked to listen to. And then this opening band is called the Callis Dow Boys, and they are nuts. So if you like Tony Tap Dancing Extravaganza or Dillinger Escape Plan, this is the band to listen to because they are wild. So that tour to me personally is the one to beat this year. As much as I love all of the other bands I mentioned on this whole thing, to me personally, that's it. That's it. If this tour is going to be my favorite tour probably of the year, no doubt. But there's so many.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, if I wish I could be there in person to hang out with you there, if I could, or if we could invent teleporting, traveling would not be an issue, and we could all hang out. Yeah. Awesome, man. Dude, thank you so much, Brandon, for your time for today. This has been such a really fun interview.
Thank you.
Just getting to know you, because you've always asked us questions. I really felt like it was time for us to give back.
Well, I
And
appreciate it.
with you doing such a great job as an online broadcaster, journalist, everything, you've accomplished so much already within 6 years, and I hope you will keep doing this for years to come. Is there any final words you want to say when we close off this interview?
I want to say thank you to you. Go check out Eddie Lamb Music on all social medias. He's absolutely been killing it on TikTok, so go follow him there. Final remarks. I am interviewing again, so if you are in a band and you happen to watch this and catch this, please feel free to DM me here on Instagram or send me an email at audioaddictionmedia.com. No, audioaddictionmedia@gmail.com. Sorry, I completely forgot it. But you could go to my website and contact me there. But yeah, it's been really great. I've been doing a lot of new live stuff on the channel, so please go check it out on YouTube. I would be greatly appreciate if you go check it out. It's been a wonderful experience doing YouTube for 6 years, and again, I couldn't expect anything less. So big shout outs to just YouTube in general, and honestly, it wouldn't have made me the person I am today. So I gotta give it props. So, and again, shout out to you, Eddie.
No worries, man. And of course, thank you to all the viewers who tuned in today. Everyone else who wants to be interviewed, feel like a rock star. Brandon is your boy. Just make sure you message Audio Addiction right here on Instagram, and he will definitely love to interview you. Put you on his YouTube channel. Please check out my YouTube channel. It is Eddie Lamb Music. That is my YouTube. And of course, make sure you check out Audio Addiction on YouTube as well. Great interviews and segments on there. So make sure you check that out. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You guys have been amazing audiences. And of course, I'm going to sign off by saying the following: stay in touch, stay safe, and stay freaking awesome. Have a good one, Brandon. Good to see you, man.
See ya. Good to see you too, Eddie.
Take care.